So I was trying to make the point that there are some little known facts, apart from the facts that were in the public domain at that time. The process leading to election, how the junta wanted to stop the election through legal process by getting one Justice Ikweme to give a midnight judgment stopping the election, and how Professor Humphrey Nwosu, insisted that the election must go on, citing the decree that enabled the election. There was the military junta did not provide sufficient funds for that election. But Humphrey Nwosu was able to devise a cheaper, transparent approach to the election, which he called Option A4.
Option A4, yeah.
Where people queue together, count the votes, and then without much paperwork, you can't be very transparent. And the result was declared at polling booth level, ward level, local government level, state level, and so on and so forth. Yeah. So the question that Nigerians would like to know, why was the result of the election annulled? And at the point where the transmission went off, I told you that the reasons, ostensible reasons offered by the military junta, particularly the former the military dictator, was an afterthought.
Yeah. It was an afterthought.
And I want to appeal to listeners that what I'm going to say now, they should go and research it. The foundation of what I want to say now is derived from two sources. One, Professor Omo Omori, the late Professor Omo Omori, Director General of Center for Democratic Studies, at that time, established by BABANGIDA, and who worked very closely, a professor of political science. And my second source is one of the most knowledgeable Nigerian jurists, Chief Richard Akinjide, who was the first Minister of Justice and was very close to the northern leaders because he was a member of the NPN, National Party of Nigeria.
I think it was the Attorney General during the
Minister of
Justice during Shagari's regime.
Now, based on his research of historical records kept in the British archives and the Colonial Office in London, and based on records of events that transpired between 1900 and 1914, that is immediately before the creation of Nigeria on January 1, 1914, by the colonial masters, by the unification of Protectorate of Northern Nigeria
and Southern Nigeria,
with the colony and Protectorate of Southern Nigeria. The events and the records kept by the British, Professor Omori was able to dive into the research into what transpired. And Professor Omori told us in his book entitled The Tale of June 12, Betrayal of the Democratic Rights of Nigerians, 1993. He was able to trace the events and a secret pact, which he called the British Design for Nigeria.
It was the British design
for Nigeria. That is, the British was thinking, what is Nigeria going to be after the unification in 1914? And Omori, in that book, through his meticulous historical evidence, that there was a pact between the colonial masters at that time and the feudal leaders in the northern region, which he called the British Design for Nigeria. And according to that design, Nigeria was planned to be, Southern Nigeria was amalgamated with the Protectorate of Northern Nigeria for the purpose of making Northern Nigeria viable. Because Northern Nigeria at that time was not economically viable. And the amalgamation was intended to use the finance from the south to finance the north. And that was the British Design for Nigeria.
And why did the British do
Excuse me.
that? Okay.
The British did not come to Nigeria to create a nation. They came to Nigeria purely to advance their economic interests. And the railways and the roads they built were for the purpose of exploiting resources in the interior. So the British did that because the leaders in the north were perceived as supporting them. They were not challenging them. While some of the leaders in the south were not very comfortable with their tactics. For example, when the British wanted to take a loan from southern governments, protectorate of southern Nigeria.
That the British taking a loan from southern Nigeria.
Yes, and it's on record. To complete the railway from Baru, I think, to Zungeru.
In Niger State.
At that time.
Yeah.
The Honorable Sapara Williams in Lagos told the British leader at that time, not the leader in London, but the governor in Nigeria at that time,
the Governor General,
that as far as the South is concerned, the uppermost limit of the interest of the Yoruba nation was Jeba. And that anything beyond Jeba, they want to know why they want to reduce the resources of the South to pay for what was going on in the North. So this has been in contention. And the British design for Nigeria was that the South should be used to pay for the expenses of running the North because the North was unviable. That book, Tale of June 12, Betrayal of the Democratic Rights of Nigeria, 1993, is not available. I'll search for it again after reading it. Published by Boston University, Massachusetts. But an available information, which is also on the internet, that any Nigerian can Google and get the facts, is written by a knowledgeable Nigerian, Chief Richard Akinjide, entitled Nationality Question: The Young Northerner and the Rich Madam from the South. Nationality Question: The Young Northerner and the Rich Madam from the South. He presented Nigeria in 1914 as a marriage between the young Northerner and the rich madam, and the rich madam was expected to provide the resources for the young Northerner. That's the British design for Nigeria. Google it and read it. Don't take my word for it. Take the word of Professor Omomori or Chief Richard Akinjide, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, First Minister in his First Republic. Now, this design for Nigeria in 1914 was not when Lord Lugard, before the amalgamation, told most of the South existing cities at that time, Vista Calabar in the South, I think Benin, Calabar, Benin, maybe 2 or 3 centers in the South, gathered Northerners, Northern emirs, and addressed them. The Southern leaders did not know of this design. It was a pact. They did not, no Southern leader knew of the reason for the amalgamation, but Northern leaders knew of the reason for the amalgamation and the condition precedent for the amalgamation.
Quite an interesting one, because we're looking.
Excuse me.
Okay.
And at various junctures in Nigerian history, whenever there is an attempt or there is a seeming direction of changing that design, there was always a protest. For example, when Antonio Naharo moved the motion for self-government in the Federal House of Representatives in Lagos on March 31, 1953, I think, the leader of the Northern People Congress at that time, Sir Ahmadu Bello, the mistake of 1914 had come to light. Yeah. That was what he said. Many people don't understand the meaning of words. What is the mistake of 1914? The mistake of 1914 was northern leaders did not want to be part of Nigeria.
Northern leaders did not want to be, or they wanted to be.
Did not want.
Okay, they were coerced by the.
They were not coerced. They had to be offered some advantages before they could agree.
Okay, that was what.
Excuse me?
Yeah.
And the other opportunity that presented itself was a 1993 election. The election was annulled, not for the reason given by Babangida, but to preserve the British design for Nigeria.
Okay, quite an expose.
To preserve the British design for Nigeria.
Not the excuse being given. I think I want. Man, I like what I am hearing today because.
And please go and check Chief Richard Akinjide. The nationality question, the young northerner and the rich madam from the south, published in the Vanguard, is online. You get a fuller story. You get the story of one, why Nigeria? Why was Nigeria created? Nigeria was not created for the purpose of building a great black African nation. It was created to address economic desires of the British. And the amalgamation was intended to solve some of the developmental problems they were having, because the British did not want to spend their own money, British taxpayers' money, to run a colonial country.
Okay.
And this was debated in the British House of Commons, and it is on the record. I've forgotten the name of the Lord Chancellor at that time, who proposed that the South must pay for the expenses of running the North. That any other option was calamitous, financially calamitous for the colonial masters.
Like serious, quite interesting. And
so
okay,
that was why the election was annulled. There was no other reason. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You've had a very from our well of literature, and history, because this is a combination of history and literature. We have lost it in this country. Chris Biose has come out to bring, to show us how the past conceptualization of Nigeria was put together by the British colonialists, not for the benefit of Nigeria, as the case may be. That was bettered by two strangers, the Northern Protectorate and the Southern Protectorate, but for the benefit of the British in actualization of their own selfish interests. And it went on further to tell us that 1993, the reasons being adduced are not entirely the reason. That the reason is that it's all about the British interest.
British design, not British.
No, British design.
British had gone to maintain. British had gone long ago.
Yeah.
To maintain the design. The beneficiaries of that arrangement wanted to maintain it.
The beneficiaries of that arrangement.
Indigenous beneficiaries of the arrangement made by the British.
What could have been if the election had not been annulled? What vision, what concept of Nigeria would you have seen the annulled election, the winner of the annulled election, bring forward to the table?
Number one.
And the ideology of the two political parties then.
Thank you very much. Number one, it would have brought a more acceptable end to military dictatorship in Nigeria. Because most of the clocks in the wheel of Nigerian progress arose after 1993.
Yeah, exactly.
For example, if the election had held, if the election had stayed, there would have been no Abacha.
Exactly. Definitely.
I don't know. Most Nigerian youths should go and read the book by Colonel Fadile on its 9 lives, the atrocities of the military, whereby an establishment that is established to serve the people specializes in torture of his own group, of his own members. Remember that some of these people who committed this are still here.
Of course, they're still in power.
Not only necessarily in power, they are here and influencing the direction of change. So Nigeria would have grown in a more humane direction. And democracy would have been consolidated. The rule of law would have been consolidated. And Abiola's policy that were humanistic and people-oriented and designed to improve the lives of the masses, with his farewell to poverty, would have led to the birth of a new Nigeria. I was a member of the SDP.